So, brethren, are there any questions from that study?
I have a question.
Yep.
When we read the book of Job,
Yep.
it is written that Satan has attacked Job
Yep.
because of his money, because he was rich. So I'm a little bit confused, but it does mean that wealthy people, wealthy men, I don't know if the wealth is provided by the devil.
There are two aspects. Many people, I mean, you've heard of the phrase that he sold his soul to Satan. So people will give themselves over to the lust of this world. They give themselves over to the pleasures and to the riches of this world. If you read the story of Job carefully, Job was extremely wealthy. Job was righteous before Yahweh. I mean, Yahweh himself said, "Look at my righteous servant Job." And Satan said he would turn his back on you. You've built a hedge around him. You have blessed everything he's done. You've blessed the work of his hands. If you took that away, he would curse you. And so Yahweh said, okay, take it away, but you shall not harm his body. So the first thing, when we understand the story of Job, he lost everything. He lost all his physical possessions. He lost his houses. He lost his wealth. He actually lost his family. All his children were killed. But Job did not reject Jehovah. And then later on we saw that his health was attacked. He basically was covered in boils, and he sat in sackcloth and ashes, scraping the boils off his body. And Satan attacked him again, but Job did not give up his faith. But when we come to the end of the book of Job, we see that Jehovah chastises him for his self-righteousness, because Job was, when the other men came and discussed these things, Job said, but I have been righteous, I've done all these righteous things. So Job, although he had been good, although he was faithful to Jehovah, he was beginning to get puffed up. He was beginning to get self-righteous. And of course righteousness only comes from Jehovah. So when Jehovah finally communicated directly with Job, said, where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth? Where were you when I set the bounds for the seas? And Job obviously realized then that although he was self-righteous, that was nothing in relation to the glory and the righteousness of Jehovah. So it says Jehovah will give us what we need. And on occasion we may need chastisement. We may need to be humbled. We may need to lose a lot of our earthly possessions to make us really focus on that which is important. And that certainly happened to me, and I know it's happened to many people in the assemblies, and it happened to Job. When he wants to get our attention, when he wants to stop us focusing on the cares of the world, he will take them away from us. So the only thing we have left is to start to turn to him and focus on him. So Satan, if you see somebody who is horrendously wealthy, if you see somebody who is what we would call a star or an idol in this world, I would argue that it's more likely coming from Satan than it is Jehovah. Jehovah says it is difficult for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. It doesn't mean to say he wants us to live in poverty and to be just scraping out a living. He will bless us. He will give us what we need to fulfill the service that he has called us into. For some people that might be business success, it might be career success. There are some singers who have had a lot of success and who sing the word of Jehovah. They are ministering through their singing, through their gift of performance. But Jehovah gives us the blessings he wants us to have to fulfill the ministry that he's called us to. But part of the preparation, part of the training, part of getting us ready to fulfill that ministry may actually be taking us down, take us back to nothing, and then build us up again. Okay? So more often than not, the gifts that we get from Jehovah are spiritual and are preparing us for our ministry, whereas the gifts that Satan gives his followers are physical gifts of wealth. I mean, you look in the tabloids, you look in the papers, how many people who are ridiculously wealthy live miserable and horrible lives. They have no happiness, they're into drugs, they're into alcohol, because with all the wealth they have, they're not satisfied. It's not giving them it's not nourishing their spirit. And Jehovah says he will give us spiritual food. And so we need to have discernment. And when we look around the world, we should not be envious. We should not feel that we have been put upon. We should actually feel sorry for them, because the more they load themselves up with wealth and the cares of the world, the further away they come from the truth of Yehovah. And that's their problem, and that's their burden that they will have to carry up to the point of judgment. Okay? Any more questions?
That's quite frightening when you think about, it says, where are you, what have you been doing? This is walking up and down on the earth. So, you know, when you look at the vast majority of people, you can eat. You are either all for Yah or Mighty One, and you try to lead a sinless life. So you try to be good and keep the commandments and everything like that. Or you're all evil. You can't be half and half.
There is no in between.
So the vast majority of people around us who do not keep the Sabbath, who do not praise Yah and everything, they are all of the devil.
Sons of the devil,
Yeah,
absolutely.
when you look at, you know, just in the society, our neighbourhoods where we live.
Yep.
And looking at our friends and our neighbours, even, really.
No, in many
People that
cases,
we call our friends.
that's right.
They
But
don't
in many
accept.
cases, they have been deceived, and our ministry is to keep the word there, so that if they are brought low, if they are given the opportunity to repent, if Yehovah calls them in the time of the end, we will still be here preaching the truth to minister to them. So as our mission statement says, to call many to righteousness. And that's what we're here, that's what we're preparing for. But yeah, at the moment, the way of the world is the way of Satan. And that's the bottom line. Okay?
So, bottom line is not a sin to be wealthy as long as you're doing in the way Yah teach you to be.
Correct. Yeah. So there is no prohibition for the people of Yehovah to be successful in life, to have money, to have houses, to have wealth. There's nothing that says we have to give it all up, but we have to be careful that wealth and that physical abundance does not become a stumbling block. Okay, it doesn't corrupt us. We don't start to idolize it. We don't put our wealth and our position and our status and our cars and our houses, whatever it is, they should not come between us and Yehovah. Yehoshua told the young man, the young man said, I tithe, I do all these things, and he said, what else do I need to do? And Yehoshua said, sell all you have and give it to the poor, and then you will have eternal life. Now that was specific to that young man, because he knew that was his stumbling block. It says the young man went away very sad, for he had great possessions. So Yehoshua showed him his idolatry, his false god was his possessions. If Yehovah gives you possessions and wealth, and you use those possessions and wealth righteously, then there's nothing wrong with that. It's if they become between you and him, that's when they become a stumbling block.
So if you can use your money to help people out, to do charity if you are wealthy.
Correct.
Charity work.
Yep.
To help people out.
Yep.
So you are doing Yah's work. It's using to do his work.
If your attitude is correct, and you choose to use your wealth to support a ministry, or it says pure and undefiled religions is this, to feed widows and orphans, to visit those who are in prison. So our ministry is to reach out to those who are the weakest in the world, but our nature is to gravitate to those who are most powerful, because people like to be near powerful people because they bask in that power. But we're told that we are to use our ministry, whatever gifts Yehovah gives us, we are told that pure and undefiled religion is to minister to widows and orphans. Those are the weak of the world that we should be reaching out to.
So those people that are less fortunate, it's all right to have money. It's what you do with your money.
Exactly.
Correct.
Who you support, who
Yeah.
you help, not it all to yourself
And be greedy.
Absolutely. It's when your wealth becomes greed that you become tempted again to have a relationship with the world. If Yehovah causes us to become millionaires overnight, and we use that money for his service, there's nothing wrong with that. If we say, now I've got $1 million, I'm going to invest it, and I spend all my time working the stock market and buying businesses and doing this, and then it consumes you, and you lose sight of him, and you spend all your time trying to grow more and more money, then that has become your false god. That's become your idol, and idolatry is obviously a sin.
They say some people, their religion is money.
Yep.
It's, the devil work,
Absolutely.
Religion.
Exactly right. So money is just a means of trade, and it's whether we choose to trade for righteous reasons or whether we choose to trade for our own vanity, our own desire, our own wickedness. And it says Satan fell because of the abundance of his trading. So he was out there already making deals and glorifying himself, and that's when he fell from favor. Okay? And at the end of the story of Job, we see that Yehovah, some people would try and make the case that Yehovah was the richest man alive on the planet at that time. And at the end of his trial and tribulation, Yehovah doubled. He gave him back double what he'd lost. So Yehovah's not against us having benefits, having a good life, as long as it's done righteously and as long as we hold fast to him and allow nothing from our earthly life to get between our spiritual relationship with him. That's really the message when it comes to wealth and abundance. He says he will give us what we need. So that's and we need clothes, we need jobs, we need money, we need this, but he will give us what we need depending on where we are in our development, in our walk with him.
But when you look at Abraham, he was one of the richest people, wasn't he?
Absolutely.
He had so much cattle and
Yep.
everything, didn't he? He had great wealth.
Yeah. Now, when you think about the tribes of Israel, they entered into Egypt with 70 people, and they left with, probably 2 or 3 million people left Egypt. So there was some like 600,000 men. So if each man had a wife and some children and relatives, elderly parents, whatever, you could say that there's probably 4 or 5 people for everyone who was named as a man. So that would be 250,000 people. So 70 people went in, 250,000 walked out. So God blessed them. But they went through, they themselves went through a period of tribulation and trial to prepare them. And even those that came out, only 2 of all of those who left Egypt were allowed to cross into the promised land. Not even Moses was allowed to cross to the promised land. So again, we need to be holding fast to him all the time, so that we know what he calls us to do, and we're doing it righteously. Okay. Good. Let's do some praise and worship.